Minute 28 unless the term Guam is called back to order for the first special session. We're back from recess. Senator Chris Dueñas, sir, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, I wish to report on both bills on their special session 1.1s and 1.2s, and the report essentially sums up as this, Mr. Speaker. On Bill 1.1s, the governor requests, of course, a number of adjustments to her powers over emergency powers, GMH, and emergency powers in general. Mr. Speaker, as we passed the budget through the override, everything the governor is asking for control of the hospital exists. In our budget, we did exactly what the governor asked us to do when we passed the $40 million through legislation under a notwithstanding provision for the governor to transfer funds under appropriation into the hospital. As you may recollect, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, we made a notwithstanding provision within the fiscal year 2026 budget to allow the governor to transfer money into the hospital because they consistently told us in the past that they cannot use transfer authority, and that's explicit in the 2026 budget. Mr. Speaker, if you control the money, you control the organization. The other thing is, Mr. Speaker, is the entire construction of the board of directors is by appointment of the governor and consent by the legislature. Both the governor and ourselves, essentially the board serves at our pleasure, simply because of advice and consent, and all of the authority vested in the board is the operations of the Guam Memorial Hospital. Because the governor has full funding authority now to transfer into GMH, as well as we can work through the board to handle any issues that may come up, we believe, Mr. Speaker, that Bill 1.1s is now unnecessary. Moving on to Bill 1.2s, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, was transmitted to my committee, and I've provided copies to other senators. I believe every senator should have gotten this. It was transmitted via email as well as hard copies to myself on September 24, 2025. Honorable Christopher M. Dueñas, Chairman, Committee on Finance and Government Operations, 38th Guam Legislature, and the Congress building is recognized. And the subject matter in there is the use of American Rescue Plan Act 2021 funds for Manila infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, I will forego reading the entire bill or the letter into the record, but will append it to the record. Mr. Speaker, essentially summarizing the letter is this. During the public hearing on Bill 1.2s, Mr. Speaker, you asked a direct question to legal counsel represented by the governor on the panel. We got into a very not heated, but a very robust back and forth legal, almost felt like a courtroom argument between the Attorney General and representatives from the governor's office. Your specific question, Mr. Speaker, was, does the infrastructure funding that's being proposed to put the infrastructure in Manila for the possibility of a medical complex in Manila, are they related directly? Meaning, does one have to be done because of the other? If you read the letter that I'm sure legal counsel prepared for the governor, you will see that clearly the governor enumerates all of the rules and regulations set by law for ARP funds, and clearly says in this letter that they are not directly tied. That we have spent over $270 million in infrastructure with local funds, whereby subsidizing those through ARP, and this $104 million doesn't even come close to what the government of Guam has done. So, Mr. Speaker, essentially this letter says everything that the majority leader tried to negotiate, which was a meeting between the legislature, the governor, and the Attorney General. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that meeting was canceled or possibly postponed. Mr. Speaker, everything in this letter now sets out the demands from the Attorney General to ensure that there would be the possibility of losing the $104 million if it's directly associated to the hospital project, complex project, and that complex project not either be underway, under procurement, or under construction. They are not tied together, Mr. Speaker. This infrastructure for Manila, clearly the capabilities are to serve the people of Guam, the greater municipality of Manila, and all of Guam. The legal counsel's review of this from the governor's office clearly states this is not an expression, if the $104 million is procured for Manila, that it is for the hospital and an endorsement of the hospital project in Manila. It is an infrastructure project, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, we encourage the governor and the attorney general to sit down, work out their differences, and allow this letter and legal review to be the impetus for the utilities to send their procurement down to the attorney general's office with this letter and other legal findings attached, so that it could facilitate the process of procurement for installation of this infrastructure. At this time, Mr. Speaker, because both bills, in the committee's opinion, have been satisfied in terms of what we currently have in law, I motion that we adjourn the first special session.
On the motion to adjourn. Gentlelady from John, you recognize, ma'am?
Mrs. Masi, I would ask that the correspondence from the governor be either posted, since there's no committee report from this hearing and that letters are not on a committee report, if that be posted on messages and comms as they are CC'd to the speaker.
So ordered, please. Mr. Chair, we'll make sure that that happens.
Mr. Speaker, I will take that instruction and append it to the proceedings of first special session, and we will also summarize our report in that fashion. I am giving a verbal right now of what the points were assembled in terms of making a decision on proceeding with session. But certainly this will be appended as the evidence to the capability of the procurement for infrastructure. Jesus Masi.
Jesus Masi. Mr. Vice Speaker, sir, you are recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. If we can just ask the committee chair just to pass out a hard copy to our members here.
Why don't we take a
short
recess?
recess?
Why don't we
Thank
take a
you.
recess and then we get that accomplished, okay? We're on recess. Legislature is back from recess. Does everybody have a copy of the letter from the governor with regard to this matter? Again, there is a motion to adjourn this session. Are there any gentlemen from Momototomaiti, sir? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I object to this recess because I do think that there is some things that we need to discuss in these bills, particularly in regards to the infrastructure in Manilao. I know the people of Guam have noted that these are emergency and extraordinary powers, and I agree that they are. And normally I would not agree for the governor to have powers like this or even really entertain the discussion. But we really need to look at the context of the situation we're in and why we need to do so. The hospital GMH needs very little introduction. We've seen how much of a problem it is at GMH, the things that need to be done. And we've had members of this body call for the governor to declare an emergency. But just saying something is an emergency doesn't really do anything, you know. It's kind of like Michael Scott from The Office. Just because you declare it doesn't mean anything happens. And so, if it's really an emergency, we as a body need to ask ourselves, what measures are we willing to take to answer this emergency? Is this really an emergency as members of this body have called for? Because right now, all I see is that we are looking to call it an emergency, but are not willing to do anything meaningful to address that emergency. We're not willing to raise taxes on the 1%. We're not willing to give the governor emergency powers. We're not willing to do anything. We just want to call it an emergency and be done with it. Make it the governor's fault that we cut funding to the hospital. The other thing we need to talk about is this waiver of signatures from the Attorney General's office regarding this Manilao property. In normal situations, I would not be for a governor circumventing certain checks like this. We are in a very unique situation. We are in a situation where an Attorney General, frankly, is acting in bad faith and trying to threaten to scuttle $100 million worth of projects unless the governor puts it where he wants to put it. That it might be illegal for what she's doing here in Manilao, but if she were to send it over to Tamuning, his preferred location in some capacity, whether through funding the current GMH or putting the new hospital location there, then it's suddenly okay. The Attorney General wants to play a high-stakes game of chicken with the governor over $100 million. This is frankly ridiculous and offensive to me. The governor is the chief executive. If somebody else wants to have say on where the hospital is, they are free to run for governor. And if I am still, by the grace of the people, still in this chamber, I will maintain consistency with what I've said in this chamber. I will cooperate with the governor to build the hospital as fast as possible, regardless of who that governor is, regardless if that governor is a Democrat or if it's somebody across the aisle as a Republican. I will work with that governor. And I am sitting here watching an Attorney General trying to sabotage the progresses of this governor for political aims. And we need to really consider, are we as a people willing to lose over $100 million because of the political gamesmanship of Doug Moylan? I sure as hell ain't. We need a new hospital. We need to fix GMH and we need a new hospital. It's not one or the other, it's both. GMH does have a management problem. But you know what? It also has a money problem. It's both. We need to really give some consideration, especially with that $100 million that will go to improving the village of Mangilao. Members of this body have called for the governor and the attorney general to meet. And I could tell you, the governor was willing to meet. It was the attorney general that didn't want to meet because the governor would bring her attorneys to that meeting. And so he refused to go. So it's not about the governor and the attorney general having to have a sit down. That sit down was already proffered and rejected by the attorney general. The attorney general wants his way or the highway. He wants to have the powers of the governor without putting the work of running for the governor. So if anybody in this chamber or anybody on the island of Guam wants to decide where the hospital is, I encourage you to run for governor. And if Senator Parkinson is still here, he will help you build the hospital wherever you choose to build it. But until that time, I will choose to help the current governor build a hospital wherever she chooses to build it. And I agree with the idea that we need to put it in Mangilao. One of the things we do not talk about is the potential for war in the Pacific. And one of the things I took home from the Defense Forum recently is that there is great tactical and strategic significance in us spreading out our critical infrastructure. In other jurisdictions that would be guaranteed peace, it makes a lot of sense to consolidate your infrastructure. But in a world where we are susceptible to missile strikes, to things called the Guam Killer, bearing our name, it does not make sense to have all of our health care in one location. We should spread our health care out, so if that one location, God forbid, is disabled or destroyed, we have other options for mass casualty centers. Mass casualty centers. Think about that word. That word is why the U.S. military and the Department of War would be willing to fund and assist with a new hospital in some capacity. Because they recognize that in the event of conflict in the Pacific, they too will need a mass casualty event in case theirs is disabled. And so this question of Tamuning versus Mangilao has taken on greater nuance, and I think it would be folly of us to not consider the strategic and tactical considerations of where we put these critical assets. And all we're doing right now with these games from the Attorney General is pussyfooting around. We need to start building a new hospital. We need to start fixing our old one. None of those things can be done without money. None of those things can be done with active sabotage by elected officials trying to make their political bones. I tell the people of Guam, I would not normally agree with these powers in normal conditions. That is the nature of emergency powers. We give powers and abilities and resources we would not normally give in times of emergency. During Typhoon Mawar, we were able to give millions of dollars to farmers on an expedited basis because of the nature of the emergency. We were able to skip a lot of the red tape that would slow us down. This is much cut along the same path. This cuts out red tape that under normal circumstances would be necessary. But at the risk of $100 million in critical infrastructure for the village of Mangilao, I think it's necessary. So I ask my colleagues to hear out these bills, to at least pass the one regarding the $100 million in Mangilao so we do not lose it. If we do not get that money spent by the end of 2026, there's no arguing about where it goes. There's no praying to Papa Trump. That money's gone. That money's gone. And so I ask my colleagues to have the conversation Let's not just adjourn and call it an emergency, but do nothing about it. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Mr. Speaker, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. There is a motion to adjourn today's session. Are there any objections? Objection. Ma'am, you spoke already. Oh, go ahead. You can, I'm sorry, you're right.
Thank you. And I had no objection to adjourning on the Bill 1. On Bill 2, I just feel like there are some things that maybe can additionally be fleshed out. It does appear that, the governor at first did not get legislative consent to build the hospital in Manilao, but she went ahead anyways and put money there. So now we are in this situation where the money's there, and the AG, who has purview over the procurement of this power and water infrastructure, because it's over $500,000, is withholding his agreement to that, and I guess has a legal opinion that says that it's not legally committed, that the money's not legally committed there. So he's exercising his authority, and the governor has asked us by this bill to remove him from the process. And so clearly, in general terms, they're at a stalemate. I just wonder, and so the governor wants to end the stalemate by asking us to remove the AG from the process. That means removing his legal review and of the procurement and his opinion and lawsuit as to whether it was legally done or not. So, and at risk, of course, as the previous speaker said, it is the money from ARP that has been put into place in this vicinity, whether for a hospital or not, according to her letter. If it's not necessarily for the hospital, it's for the infrastructure now, for the area. And I just wonder if there were any other, if there's anything that we're not seeing. So from my notes from the hearing, it says, the AG had said the public policy decision on whether to build a hospital in a certain location invariably involves the legislature, because the governor, although she has an organic act authority to oversee health care, you cannot oversee health care without the legislature, because there's debt, there's structure, there's commitment of salaries and equipment. So I'm not sure if he's saying that this requires the legislature's involvement to say we agree with this expenditure of money over there or not, if that's going to settle his lawsuit or the matter or not. But I just wonder if there's any other proposal. And I think at the committee they had fleshed out that according to the governor, they are not, or we did this during the budget, according to BBMR and DOA, they are not allowed to move this money, this ARP money, anywhere else. And then one of my colleagues had asked for meetings between the two. Well, perhaps we need to call them in here and have them talk to us directly about what is going to allow us to save this money, if that's our goal. That's my goal, save the money. It's really, I mean, I can see why everybody gets entrenched, because it's like they did it without consent, and now they want us to help them. But if we are trying to save the money, perhaps there's another way. That's all I'm asking, is if we have really exhausted all avenues to explore that, and between these two parties. So that's why if we don't do anything, we're just left in the same place. And while I don't necessarily agree with all the tactics going on here, I don't want to be left in the same place. I don't want to be left with kind of an impasse, a potential loss of money, or a just, political display of wills. I don't know. But if any of them has any concrete solutions, maybe I'm open and willing to explore those. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the motion, are there any objections? Gentleman from MIPA, you're recognized, sir.
Nadasidus, Mr. Speaker, and Biba Betnes to the people of Guam. Good morning on you, and thank you for watching our, I hope our stream is up, and if you're on our Docomo GTA channel, Sidus Masi. Mr. Speaker, I kind of get the feeling as many times as we've been in here on this special session, we could have already debated and discussed and possibly even voted on these bills. So I'm going to remain consistent in my argument that although just based on my review of both of the bills, I'm not sure if I necessarily support them, but I think, for all intents and purposes, we're practically debating these bills right now. And so that was the call I made when we recessed the session the last time, is that, even if we don't agree, we can at least agree that it's not proper for these bills to be blocked at the pass the way they're being blocked. And I'm just not sure whether or not a senator who's the chair of a committee can come in and make these unilateral justifications about why we are not going to discuss and debate these bills. And I agree with the gentle lady from Jotnya, We have a colleague in here who wrote emails saying, hey, let's all sit down at the same table. But that table would be a table out of sight of the eyes of the people of Guam. And this session hall, this people's house, this is the proper venue to bring all of these parties. It's like they're tied in knots and they're asking the legislature to whip out our machete and cut through the knot. But, we can't do that if we don't have the parties in front of us. And it's not for lack of trying. Since the 37th Guam Legislature, we've been very consistent on both sides of the aisle in asking the governor to engage with the legislature on this issue of the construction of the new hospital. And sadly, that engagement has never happened. It has been very much a case of, I don't want to push this narrative, but it has been a case of my way or the highway. We've written letters. We've asked her to come down and discuss everything from the Eagles Field lease to even the rationale and the logic behind the selection of the Mangilaw site. But, part of why we're in this predicament right now is because it's like that old song. The governor took a wrong turn and she just kept going and going and going. And now we're condemning land and doing all these things that we're doing at Mangilaw. But that debate kind of seems like a different issue, the location of the hospital. Now, these bills specifically are seeking to grant the governor some pretty special superpowers. The first bill, and then the second bill, of course, seeks to remove the Attorney General from this process to allow the administration to keep going down the wrong road. And so I think both of these bills are very worthy of debate. And, very worthy of having the Attorney General and the governor or her representatives come down to the People's House and kind of flesh out these arguments and allow us to listen to them and to look them in the eyes and allow the people of Guam to look them in the eyes and basically decide how we're going to solve this impasse. So at this time, sir, I would also like to object to the adjournment. I feel like, it's our job to come in here and debate and discuss these ideas, most especially if we don't agree with them, Mr. Speaker. So thank you for the opportunity to rise and share my thoughts on the adjournment of this special session. And again, happy Friday. Biba Betnes to the people of Guam. Sidus Masi. And Biba St. Francis.
Okay. Gentlelady from Tamuning, ma'am, you're recognized.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to my colleagues. Also, to those who are listening, like Chris says, Biba malfunction. Biba Betnes. Mr. Speaker, I stand in support of this adjournment. I think we did our due diligence. I know the oversight chair of the Committee on Appropriations decided to take the time to have a public hearing on these bills. Did we forget about that? I think not. I think we sought trying to rectify this fight between the governor and the Attorney General's office with another colleague asking to put out an olive branch and come together, kumbaya. And that failed. I think the people looked at us to see if we can do something, and we did. We tried to do something. Again, public hearing. Again, we reached out, requested a letter that was brought to us that each of us has that can read for themselves the process of what the governor has done. So we did do our due diligence. We did go beyond opening the session at the request of the governor and looking at what these bills she asked us to review and consider. So I stand in full support of this adjournment. Now, if there's another bill that she wants to bring down and she keeps pulling us in, then so be it. We will move on that. So I think enough of the bullying, it needs to stop and come up with real solutions and real, true collaboration and communication needs to be done. That's what the public is saying. Why can't they just sit down in a room and discuss this out? So other than that, Mr. Speaker, I thank you, for all the work that was done to address these two measures. And I appreciate, the consideration of this body to consider this adjournment without objection. Si Diyos masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. On the motion to adjourn, there has been an objection. Therefore, all those in favor of adjourning today's first special session, please indicate by raising your hands. Motion carries. Session is adjourned. Thank you very much.